I used to believe I could tell when something was wrong, that intuition would twitch, flare up like a warning light. But that night, it didn't warn me. It let me sit there, trusting, blind, as my world quietly rewrote itself behind tinted glass and fake laughter. I was parked outside her office, the end-of-year mixer still going inside. She'd texted me, running over, wait in the lot. I remember staring at that heart for a moment too long, then glancing up at the building's top floor. The conference room lights were low, dim enough to miss if you weren't looking. But I saw them, her silhouette, his taller frame. Aaron, the same boss she'd always said was a bit much. Now his hand was on her waist, fingers grazing like they belonged there. She tilted her head, said something that made him laugh. Then she smiled. Not politely, not distantly, the way she used to smile at me after wine and shared secrets, the smile I used to earn. If you're still with me, take a second to like the video and subscribe. 97% of people don't, and it means the world to our team keeping these stories alive. I didn't storm in, I didn't honk the horn, or call her phone or send a text. I just watched. Let the silence crawl in beside me like cold air through a cracked window. Then I started the car. I backed out of the lot slow enough that she wouldn't hear the tires, drove 2 blocks, pulled over, and sat in the dark with the engine off. The inside of my chest felt strange, tight but not broken, like something wasn't shattering, just shifting. It wasn't rage, not yet. Rage is loud and sloppy and full of demands. This was something colder, cleaner. The moment when you stop expecting the person you love to come back through the door the same way they left. She got home an hour later, hair perfect, dress smooth. I pretended to be asleep. She slid into bed and whispered, "Sorry it went late." I didn't move. Just let the quiet answer for me. And in that quiet, I started packing. Not suitcases, not yet. Just the first pieces of who I used to be, folded up and stored somewhere she'd never see again. She didn't notice at first. Most people don't when the shift is quiet. I still kissed her cheek in the mornings, still asked how her day was, but I never looked her in the eye for the answers. She started mistaking the routine for love, assuming presence meant affection. That was her first mistake. The second was thinking I'd fight. I didn't bring up the conference room, didn't ask about Aaron. I just let the distance grow until it felt natural, like we were housemates passing each other in a long, echoing hallway. She mentioned a client dinner one night. I said, "Have fun." She hesitated like she wanted me to object, then smiled too quickly and went to curl her hair. By the time the firm hosted their cocktail gala, she barely mentioned it, just texted me a heart and a photo of her dress. I didn't respond. That weekend, I wasn't at my buddy's place like I told her. I was 2 hours away in a wooded town she'd never remember the name of. Something with elm in it. The Airbnb smelled like pine and old paper. I liked it. The realtor met me at noon, showed me 3 listings, all private, all clean title. She asked, "Starting over?" I nodded, something like that. Later that evening, I met a civil attorney. She specialized in asset protection and quiet exits, told me, "The people who come here don't yell. They just leave right." She handed me a checklist, and I recognized half the steps. I'd already done them. Changed online logins, created a private email alias, rerouted my paycheck. She smiled. "You're ahead of most." My wife texted that night. "Crazy party, wish you were here." I stared at the bubble until it faded. I imagined her laughing with Aaron, his hand low on her back, her drink raised, eyes scanning the room but not looking for me. She wasn't losing sleep over me. Not yet. But I had already started slipping through her fingers, quietly, strategically, like breath leaving a warm room in winter. You don't see it vanish, you only feel what's missing when it doesn't come back. It's funny how blind love can be when it's confident. She used to laugh when I paid bills on Sunday mornings, saying I was so type A. I handled the mortgages, the taxes, the insurance binders. She preferred dinner parties and curated moments, not spreadsheets and clause language. That left everything exactly where I needed it, in my hands. And I never misused that trust, not until I had to. The brokerage account was first. I'd structured it with a revocable ownership clause, something her eyes glazed over when we signed it. "That's all you," she said, tossing the papers back with a kiss. So I liquidated my portion and moved it quietly, surgically, into a holding firm registered 2 states over. Not illegal, just prepared. Then came the townhouse. Her sister always fawned over it. "You two are so lucky," she'd say, trailing her hand along the banister like it was a palace. What she didn't know was that I'd already transferred the deed to a shell LLC 6 months ago, structured for asset isolation in the event of any legal proceeding. A clause buried in the original purchase, triggered by dual signatures I'd obtained under the guise of refinancing. One evening, my wife mentioned we should tap our equity line to renovate the kitchen. "Big island, something white and bright," she said, sipping wine like it was already done. I murmured, knowing the line no longer existed. I'd closed it, quietly. After filing an identity verification update that listed the LLC as sole property holder, she didn't notice, she didn't ask, and I didn't offer. Even our joint savings had been restructured. I began routing my salary through a different institution entirely, one she had no login for. I left the original account trickling just enough to pass casual inspection. Enough for groceries, enough to look normal. At night, she'd scroll through Instagram, laughing at videos. I'd be beside her, phone in hand, reviewing documents from my attorney's office. The language was dry, the implications were not. One document confirmed her name had been quietly removed from a co-signed venture we once started together, a small business idea she'd lost interest in after 2 months. But it still made decent passive income now. It made income for one. She still didn't suspect a thing, not when I offered to take care of the property tax filings this year, not when I told her I'd rebalanced a few things to weather the market, not when she tossed me another receipt from brunch with Aaron's assistant and said, "You're the money genius, babe, just handle it." I did. Every detail, every move, every quiet pivot. She was playing a game of appearances. I was playing for exit velocity. She'd been humming when she walked into the apartment that evening, some aimless, tuneless melody that sounded too light for the hour. Her heels clicked like punctuation across the tile. "I'm just going to rinse off real quick," she said, and disappeared into the steam behind the bathroom door. Her phone lit up 2 minutes later. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even near it at first. I was grabbing a glass of water when it buzzed on the counter. Just once, a preview line, a name, a wink. That meeting ran long. Aaron. That was all. I didn't touch it, didn't scroll or unlock, just watched it sit there, glowing like a flare against the dusk settling through the kitchen windows. The screen dimmed, then lit up again with another buzz. I turned away. By the time she came back out, wrapped in a towel, her eyes went straight to the phone. Saw the open screen, the unlocked device, the unreadable look on my face. She froze mid-step. "Hey," she said. Too casual. "You need something?" "Heading out for coffee," I said, reaching for my keys. She blinked. "Now? It's late." I nodded, slipped on my coat, walked to the door, didn't raise my voice, didn't ask a single question. Behind me, she stood still. I opened the door. She finally spoke. Did you see something?" I didn't answer, just left it there, hanging. Let her stew in the doubt, the kind of silence that's louder than accusation. That makes you question how much the other person knows, how long they've known, and why they're not reacting the way they should. She didn't follow, didn't try to stop me, or explain, or play dumb, because in that moment she realized something far worse than me being angry. She realized I was calm. She realized I wasn't shocked. She realized whatever I'd seen tonight, it wasn't the first time. At the cafe down the block, I sat in the corner by the window, hands wrapped around a too-hot cup. I didn't drink it. I just watched the steam rise. Checked an email from my lawyer, marked a title transfer complete. I glanced at my phone once, no new messages. The silence was a relief, not because she had nothing to say, but because I didn't need her words anymore. It started with a LinkedIn message of all things. No drama, no bitterness in the text, just 5 words that rearranged my breath. "I think we need to talk." Her profile photo was familiar. Aaron's wife, Marissa. I remembered her from a company retreat 2 years ago, the one where everyone got a little too drunk and she sat quietly at the edge of the fire pit, nursing a ginger ale while Aaron poured drinks for interns. She picked the cafe, neutral ground, midway between our worlds. I arrived early. She walked in 10 minutes late, black coat buttoned up to the chin, eyes scanning like someone walking into a courtroom. We didn't hug, we didn't order for a while. We just sat there, 2 strangers whose lives had been silently rewritten by the same pair of hands. Finally, she said, I wasn't sure if I was crazy or just being paranoid. I shook my head. You weren't. She let out a breath that sounded like it had been sitting in her lungs for months. For the next 3 hours, we compared timelines like detectives. Same vague excuses, same nights running long, same changes in tone, in energy and effort. She mentioned how Erin stopped noticing the little things, like her new earrings, or when she changed their bedroom sheets. I nodded, thinking of the way my wife had stopped fixing her hair before coming home. There was no talk of revenge, no scheming, just the strange relief of being believed. At one point she laughed, dry and sharp, when I told her about the text that lit up my wife's screen. That sounds like him, she said. He thinks he's subtle. We didn't flirt, didn't fish for compliments. It wasn't that kind of meeting. It was something colder, cleaner. The collision of two people who had spent months blaming themselves for someone else's cruelty. We left separately. No lingering glances, no promises to follow up. That night, my phone lit up with a single photo. Marissa, grinning mid-laugh with a group of friends. Wine in one hand, the ocean behind her. Her caption, "Thanks, I actually feel human again." I stared at it longer than I meant to, not because she looked radiant, but because she looked free, and I realized I did too, not healed, not yet, but no longer alone in the wreckage, just two people climbing out. The moment I zipped up the charcoal suit, I knew what kind of night it was going to be. She'd bought it for me 2 years ago, my wife. Said it made me look capable in a quiet way. I'd worn it to board dinners and engagement parties. But that night, it fit differently, sharper, like a blade finally realizing it could cut. Marissa texted the address and said, "Cocktail attire, and walk in with your head up." The venue was all glass and marble, the kind of place that serves wine by varietal, not brand. Their firm had spared no expense, musicians in the corner, fire dancers booked for later, the kind of pageantry people mistake for success. As we walked in, I could feel the shift ripple through the crowd like a dropped glass. Whispers stirred, heads turned, because I wasn't a stranger in this world. I'd stood in this very room before, wearing that same suit arm in arm with my wife, back when we were still performing for the crowd. But tonight, she wasn't at my side. Marissa was, elegant, composed, wearing navy satin like it was armor. She didn't clutch my arm. She didn't need to. She walked beside me like someone who'd stopped apologizing for her presence. We moved through the room slowly, conversations pausing in our wake. I caught glimpses of people who recognized me, then her, then did the math, and stopped talking mid-sentence. And then we saw them. Erin and my wife stood near the central table, laughing too loudly, holding drinks that didn't match their expressions. He noticed us first. His smile faltered. Then my wife turned, and her face snapped into something unreadable. Her eyes darted to my hand, then to Marissa's. She smiled out of instinct, but it died before it finished forming. We stopped at their table. Silence dropped like a curtain. "Erin?" I said evenly, extending my hand. "Small world." He took it eventually. His grip was weak. I turned to Marissa, brushed her hand gently, and said it loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. "She's incredible." My wife blinked like she'd been slapped in a dream. Erin's throat worked, but no words came out. And I didn't wait for them. We moved on. Didn't linger, didn't gloat, just walked through the room like nothing had happened. But everything had, because no one there would ever unsee what they just saw, and neither would she. It was a 22-second clip. Someone caught it on their phone, maybe an intern, maybe just someone who lived for gossip. The angle was perfect. Erin's fake smile cracking, my wife's frozen grin twitching, Marissa's calm, grounded posture beside me, and me shaking his hand like it meant nothing. The caption read, "Man shakes boss's hand after stealing his wife. Savage." It hit 2 million views before I even knew it existed. I found out from a friend who messaged me, "You're trending," and not in a bad way. The comments were ruthless, revenge level, master. Cold, controlled, beautiful. Bros playing 5D chess while they're still trying to open the box. And then the deeper ones. You can tell he didn't do this to hurt them. He did it because he healed. Not a scream, not a scene, just pure elegance. I didn't respond, just watched it ripple, let the fire spread on its own. Meanwhile, my wife's coworkers passed it around like wildfire. Group chats exploded. Someone added her without realizing. She left the chat within an hour. I heard from a mutual that she came into the office red-eyed the next day, hair tied back, no makeup, said she wasn't feeling great. No one offered sympathy. No one dared bring it up, but because no one needed to. The footage said everything. Then Aaron's board got involved. Technically, nothing about the clip was illegal, but the optics were a problem. The COO reportedly asked, "Is this the kind of leadership presence we want on our masthead?" A week later, Aaron was quietly placed under review. Marissa, meanwhile, posted a single photo, a wine glass, a beach at dusk, captioned, "Closure tastes better than revenge." The comments under hers were kinder. "I'd raise a glass with you. You're glowing." Glad he walked in when he did. And there it was, the power shift, silent, irrevocable. They built their affair on secrecy, arrogance, and assumption. We dismantled it with presence, composure, and one perfectly timed walk across a ballroom. She waited until the next evening, cornering me in the kitchen like a prosecutor walking into her own trial late. Her hands were clenched at her sides, face set in a mask of indignation that cracked at the corners. "What are you doing with her?" she snapped, skipping hello. I didn't look up right away, just stirred my tea and let the quiet stretch long enough to feel like an answer. Then I raised a brow. "You mean Aaron's wife?" That landed. Her jaw tensed, like I'd struck a nerve she forgot she had. She scoffed, stepping forward like she still had some claim to the center of the story. "You're trying to humiliate me." I finally turned. "No," I said, voice steady. "I'm just rebuilding with someone honest." Her face faltered. She hadn't prepared for that. She came expecting fireworks. Accusations, maybe begging, maybe shouting. Something she could twist, weaponize, turn into a reason to say I was cruel. But I wasn't cruel. I was done. And there's a kind of silence that can't be argued with. She switched tactics, tried softening her voice. "You think she's innocent? She reached out to you." "She did," I nodded, because she'd already survived what I was still pretending not to see. The color in her cheeks deepened. "So this is some trauma bond? Is that it?" "No," I said again. "This is what it feels like when two people stop being lied to." Her eyes darted, searching for something, remorse, jealousy, maybe just a crack in the surface where she could slip her version of the story in, but there was nothing left to grip, no fight to twist into foreplay, no forgiveness to hold hostage. She tried one last play. "You think she's better than me?" I tilted my head. "She doesn't need to be. She's just not pretending." That stung more than anything I could have yelled, and I think in that moment she finally understood the depth of what she'd lost. Not just the stability, not just the image, but me. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even interested in the war. The calm I carried now didn't need defending, and the quiet dignity in Marissa's way of holding truth made every word from my wife sound like static. She walked out a few minutes later, trying to slam the door behind her. It didn't close right, neither did she. The envelope arrived midweek, stiff, overcompensating, my wife's name typed neatly above the phrase, "Petition for separation." Inside, the wording was careful, emotionally sterile. She claimed I'd withdrawn affection, failed to communicate, abandoned the marital union. She was building her stage, hoping I'd stumble through the role of the heartless partner. It would have worked if she hadn't been 6 months late. I had already filed a marital agreement long before she knew we were playing chess, the kind that seals doors before someone tries to climb through them. My attorney called it a proactive reclassification of vulnerable assets. The townhouse, the side accounts, the holding firm, even the vintage car her sister loved to borrow, all ring-fenced and all legally mine. I didn't contest her petition, just signed acknowledgement of receipt and sent it back without a single edit. My attorney included a cover letter. "Please note pre-separation restructuring per sections 7 through 9, mutually acknowledged at time of execution." Translation: "There's nothing here for you." Aaron didn't fare better. After the viral fallout, his board moved quickly. Technically, his resignation was voluntary, but everyone knew what it meant. Within a month, Marissa filed. Quietly, cleanly, no theatrics. Just a firm line drawn under years of stage perfection. She never gloated, never tried to celebrate their destruction. But I saw the moment it hit her when the headlines started to flip. One article called it "The Power of Poise, How Two Spouses Took the High Road." Another, "Scandal Leaves Executives Empty-Handed." We were never named outright. But the subtext was clear. The cheaters had lost the audience. The people they betrayed had rewritten the final act. Marissa sent me a photo of a sunrise that week. No caption, just light breaking over the ocean and her bare feet in the frame. I sent back a quiet thumbs up. There was nothing else to say. They'd spent months playing with secrets and shadows. We'd answered with structure, with truth, with time, and now all they had left was silence, not the peaceful kind, the kind that echoes. The gala wasn't meant to be symbolic. Just another evening in early spring, the kind where the air is soft and the city hums with polished shoes and clinking glassware. Marissa had been invited by one of the event chairs, something about youth scholarships, a good cause. She asked if I'd join her. I didn't hesitate. She wore emerald. Not loud, not flashy, just elegant in that effortless, grounded way she had. I wore navy, no tie. We didn't match. We aligned. The venue was warm with light, framed by soft jazz and polite laughter. We moved through the crowd like we belonged there, and maybe for the first time, we actually did. No one stared, no one whispered, or if they did, it didn't matter anymore. Halfway through the evening, a photographer caught us laughing. Not posed, not planned, just mid-conversation, heads tilted toward each other, a spark of something real in the space between our faces. He showed us the photo, asked if he could submit it for the gala spread. We nodded, thought nothing of it. A week later, it appeared in the local lifestyle magazine, page 9, center column, no headline, no caption, just the photo. Us. Content, confident, whole. My ex-wife saw it at her salon. One of the stylists told a friend who told me how she sat there, foil in her hair, flipping through the magazine without knowing. Then she turned the page, stopped cold, didn't blink, didn't speak, just stared, not for seconds, minutes. The stylist said she didn't even realize they were watching. She just kept looking at a moment she wasn't part of, at the man she once knew, now smiling with someone who didn't need to be loud to be loved. And maybe, just maybe, she understood then that some things don't come back, not because they're lost, but because they've been rebuilt somewhere better, and there's no door that leads you there from regret.